Minnesota legalizes the use of recreational marijuana. The wave of marijuana legalization has been a revolutionary movement that has swept across the United States, and Minnesota is the newest state to join the rising number of states that have embraced this trend. A new era has begun for cannabis in the state of Minnesota as a result of Governor Tim Walz's signing of House File 100, HF 100, into law. The bill will take the next 2 years to implement the various operational, licensing, and sales components of legalized cannabis. However, beginning on August 1, 2023, adults will be allowed to possess and use marijuana legally. Notably, several anti-discrimination rules that affect businesses, as well as potential employees, went into force the moment they were passed. As a direct consequence of this, employers are under significant time pressure to revise the drug policies and testing protocols that are implemented in the workplace, even as the law affords job applicants extensive protections. In the early 2010s, proponents of making marijuana use legally permissible in Minnesota began to gain traction in their campaign. The potential medical benefits of cannabis, as well as the possible economic advantages of legalizing the plant, have recently come to the attention of advocacy groups and policymakers. With the passage of the Medical Cannabis Act in 2014, the state of Minnesota took its first step toward full legalization of marijuana by allowing eligible patients to engage in limited marijuana use. Employers in the state of Minnesota are prohibited from discriminating against prospective or current employees based on the patient's status as a qualified state or tribal medical cannabis patient, effective immediately. Patients who want to explain a positive drug test for marijuana can do so by presenting documents verifying their registration in a medical marijuana registry, or providing verification that they are enrolled in the registry. Patients who use cannabis for medical purposes are not allowed to possess cannabis or to be under the influence of the drug while they are on the job or while they are performing their duties. When Minnesota became the most recent state to legalize marijuana for recreational use, this marked a significant step forward for the country. HF 100 marks a dramatic shift in the state's stance on cannabis by allowing adults over the age of 21 to possess, transport, grow, and consume marijuana within specified restrictions. HF 100 also places specific limits on the amount of marijuana that can be possessed, transported, or grown. The legalization of marijuana gives new options for job seekers as well as employees, but it also creates issues for businesses that want to ensure that their workplaces remain productive and safe for their employees. A significant number of employers are concerned about impairment, accidents on the job, and the potential for legal repercussions. As a consequence of this, businesses will need to reconsider their drug policies to maintain compliance with the legal requirements governing recreational marijuana use while also protecting their financial interests. For instance, HF 100 adds cannabis to the state's definition of a lawful consumable product, which includes any foods, beverages, or substances that are authorized and thought to be safe for human consumption. As a consequence of this, an employer is not permitted to reprimand, fire, or refuse to recruit an employee solely based on their use of lawful consumable products, like cannabis, outside of the workplace and when the employee is not on duty. Employers can continue to prohibit employees from possessing or consuming cannabis during work hours, while on the job, or while using company property. Employers are now faced with the challenge of determining how best to approach pre-employment drug testing in the wake of marijuana's decriminalization. HF 100 expressly forbids employers from conducting cannabis tests on job applicants or using the results of such tests to determine whether or not an applicant is eligible for work unless doing so is specifically authorized by federal or state law. As a consequence of this, businesses might revise their drug testing policy such that they concentrate on detecting impairment during working hours rather than testing for marijuana usage outside of the workplace. The goal of this strategy is to respect the personal preferences of workers while simultaneously fostering an environment free of drugs in the workplace. HF 100 authorizes employers to test employees for cannabis usage in line with a substance abuse testing program, based on reasonable suspicion, or by an established random screening program. On the other hand, Examinations might not be arbitrary or capricious. Employers have a responsibility to exercise extreme caution so as not to infringe upon the rights of their workers who legally consume marijuana. As a consequence of this, companies should formulate written policies that address the use of cannabis for medical or recreational purposes, possession of cannabis, sale of cannabis, transfer of cannabis, or impairment while at work or on property owned by the employer. Policies should make it clear when testing for marijuana is necessary, such as in situations when impairment is suspected, as well as the consequences of tests that come up positive for cannabis. According to HF 100, an employee is only subject to disciplinary action or termination if they are impaired by cannabis while at work, have a verified positive test, were previously furnished with a written copy of the employer's cannabis policy, and violated that policy. Additionally, the employee must have been informed of the employer's cannabis policy. If a violation of a person's rights is mandated by either federal or state law, this may also have a negative influence on their work. Candidates and workers alike need to have a thorough understanding of the rights and restrictions associated with the use of cannabis in the workplace. Even if decriminalizing marijuana for recreational use will result in increased individual liberty, people must have a solid understanding of the consequences of cannabis use, particularly those who work in occupations that place a premium on public safety. Jobs that are considered to be safety sensitive are those in which an impairment brought on by the consumption of alcohol, drugs, or cannabis could put the health or safety of other people in jeopardy. According to the rules that are currently in place, cannabis and its metabolites are still considered to be drugs that should be tested for in workers who perform jobs that involve a high risk to public safety. Employers and job prospects alike may face new obstacles and opportunities as a result of the legalization of marijuana for recreational use in Minnesota, as well as modifications to the state statute regarding medical marijuana. The new legislation not only underlines the significance of protecting the rights and privacy of applicants and workers, but it also requires companies to navigate the ever-changing regulations and rules that are associated with the use of cannabis. This provides a challenge for employers. Employers and job candidates alike can adjust to and succeed in Minnesota's post-legalization age by keeping up with the latest changes, consulting with legal counsel, and discussing program modifications with drug testing suppliers. Safeguards for personal use when not on duty. The Consumable Items Act, CPA, of Minnesota has been updated by the new law, which prevents businesses from penalizing or firing employees or refusing to accept candidates who use lawful consumable items outside of the workplace. This provision was included in the original statute. As of the 1st of August, the word lawful consumable products will expressly cover cannabis flowers, cannabis products, hemp edibles with lower potency, and consumer products produced from hemp. The law goes even further to specifically specify that these items are considered to be permissible consumable products under the law of Minnesota, regardless of whether federal or other state law considers cannabis use, possession, impairment, sale, or transfer to be unlawful. This provision is included because the law goes even further to explicitly clarify that these products are deemed to be lawful under Minnesota law. There is, however, nothing in the recently modified CPA that prevents employers from taking action against employees who use, possess, sell, transfer, or are impaired while working, while on work premises, or while operating an employer's vehicles, machines, or equipment. This includes employees who use illegal drugs while working, while on work premises, or while operating an employer's vehicles, machines, or equipment. In a similar vein, employers have the right to continue restricting the use of such items if failing to do so would violate another federal or state law or regulation, or if it would cause the employer to lose money or any licensing-related advantage by federal law or regulations. In all of these cases, the violation would be considered a willful violation. The CPA will not alter the current exclusions to the general prohibition on employer limits of lawful consumable products during non-working hours. These exceptions are stated in the CPA. Do you like it? Kindly give your valuable response in our comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative videos.